Imagine moving into your dream apartment, only to find the walls whispering your name, mirrors showing faces that aren't yours, and shadows crawling from places they shouldn't. These 8 tenants thought they found a home, but what they uncovered were doorways to a cosmic nightmare where glowing bugs, singing clocks, and living mold wait to drag you into the void. Each story builds to a twist so chilling, you'll never look at your apartment the same way again. Story 1. The Whispering Walls. Let me tell you about the time I thought I was losing my mind in that old apartment. My name's Alex Johnson, and this all went down in the fall of 2018. I had just finished college with a degree in business that didn't get me much, so I was scraping by with a job at a coffee shop downtown. Chicago was my home, but rent was killing me. My old place kicked me out when the building got sold, so I hunted for something cheap. I found an ad online for a 2-bedroom in an old part of town. The building was from 1885, one of those big stone things with fancy carvings on the outside that looked like faces staring down. People call that style Gothic. Means it's dark and full of shadows, with tall, narrow windows that let in dim light. The street was quiet, lined with trees that dropped leaves like tears. New condos were going up around it, making the place stand out like a sore thumb from another time. The rent was half what I expected, so I called right away. The landlord, Mr. Harlan, was an old man with white hair and eyes that darted around like he was scared of his own shadow. He met me at the door, smelling like mothballs and old books. "Unit 3B, he said, handing me heavy iron keys. "It's been empty a while. Don't pay attention to any odd sounds, pipes and wind, you know?" I nodded, excited to have my own space. I signed the papers without reading the fine print. Moving day was rainy. I lugged my boxers up 3 flights of creaky stairs. The hallway had wallpaper peeling in spots, showing plaster underneath, like skin flaking off. My door was heavy wood with a brass number that was tarnished green. Inside, the air was musty, like it hadn't been breathed in years. High ceilings made echoes when I walked. The living room had a big window overlooking an alley where trash cans stood like sentinels. Kitchen was small, with a gas stove that clicked when I tested it. 2 bedrooms, one big with a bay window, the other small at the back, facing a brick wall from the next building. I set up the big room as mine, unrolling my sleeping bag since my bed frame was coming later. Unpacked clothes, books, a few pictures of family. By night, I was tired, ate a sandwich from the corner store, and fell asleep with the rain tapping on the glass. Around 2 in the morning, I woke up sudden. My heart was racing, but I didn't know why. Then I heard it a low whisper, like people talking in the next room, but too soft to catch words. I sat up, rubbing my eyes. The walls were brick, thick as my arm, so neighbors couldn't be that loud. I got out of bed, bare feet cold on the wood floor. Pressed my ear to the wall by the bed. The whispers got quieter, then stopped. Must be the rain or something, I thought. Went back to sleep, but it took a while. Morning came gray. I made coffee in my new kitchen, the pot gurgling like it was alive. Work was the usual, serving lattes to grumpy office folks. On break, I texted my buddy Mike about the place. "Cheap and creepy," I wrote. He replied with a ghost emoji. That night, the whispers came again. This time, I could almost make out sounds like she and I checked the small bedroom. The closet door was ajar. I swore I had closed it. Inside, the space was empty, but the back wall had scratches. Long lines like nails had dragged down. Freaked me out a bit, so I slammed it shut and put a box in. Days passed like that. Work, home, whispers at night. They got louder, clearer. Not English, but a strange tongue that made my head ache. It sounded old, like from a time before people. One evening, I recorded it on my phone, playing back. It was their low murmurs that sent shivers down my spine. Showed it to the girl at work, Lisa. She listened, face pale. Sounds like wind in a cave, she said, but her eyes said different. I started digging into the building's history, sat at the library after work, flipping through old books and microfilm. Found out it was built by a rich guy who loved stars. Then, in 1893, during the big fair in Chicago, a man named Dr. Elias Crow rented 3B. He was a scientist, but not the normal kind. He studied the sky, but not for beauty, for secrets. Books said he believed things lived out there, in the dark between stars. Vast beings, older than Earth, that could drive men mad with a glance. Cosmic horror, they called it, the idea that the universe is full of stuff we can't comprehend, and it's not friendly. Crow did experiments. He had telescopes and strange machines. Neighbors heard chants at night. Then one day, he was gone. No body, no note. Just his journal left open, with drawings of eyes in the sky and words like the void calls. The apartment stayed empty for decades, rented only to folks who didn't stay long. That night, the whispers said my name. Alex, ... join. I bolted upright, sweat soaking my shirt. The air felt heavy, like before a storm. Lights in the room flickered. Not off and on, but dimming like something sucked the power. I called Mike. Dude, this place is weird. He came over the next day, big guy with tattoos, not scared of much. We had pizza, played video games. Midnight hit. Whispers started. Mike froze. What the hell? We listened. Words formed. See the stars, ... the true stars. Mike left fast, saying, "Get out, man." Things sped up after that. The mirror in the bathroom showed my reflection, wrong eyes black, smile too wide. I blinked. It was normal. Scratches appeared on my arms while I slept, like fingers had grabbed me. The small room's closet banged open every hour. I looked in once, flashlight shaking. The darkness was wrung too deep, and I saw pinpricks of light, like stars, but moving, swirling in shapes that made my stomach turn. I confronted Mr. Harlan in the basement, where he fixed pipes. "What's with 3B? He looked up, face wrinkled. Crow opened a door to the beyond. The walls soaked it in. They whisper what he heard, the call from the void. Some hear it, some don't. You hear. He showed a scar on his arm, old and twisted. I heard once, stayed away. Dreams came bad. Floating in space, but space was alive. Giant shapes, tentacles bigger than planets, eyes that saw through time. They whispered knowledge, Earth is nothing, humans ants, and the beings hunger for our minds. I woke screaming, head full of stars. 1 week, I stayed home sick, sat in the living room, researching more. Found an old book online, shipped fast. Forbidden Knowledge, it was called. Pages yellow, words compressed like secrets, packed tight. It talked of ancient rites to call cosmic entities, beings from the black, that grant power but take sanity. Crow had tried it. That night, storm raged. Thunder shook the building. Power went out. I lit candles, flames dancing shadows on walls. Whispers loud, chanting in that strange language. Closet door in small room crashed open. Wind howled from inside, but no window there. I grabbed a knife. From kitchen, heart thumping. Approached slow. Inside the closet, no back wall, just a hole of night. Stars spinning wild. A hand reached out, black bony, with too many fingers. Cold touch on my wrist, pulled me. I saw flashes, galaxies eaten, worlds ending, laughter from the dark. Slashed with knife. Hand recoiled. Hole shimmered, closed. But my mind burned with visions. Ran out, downstairs, into storm. Called police from street, but what to say? Stars attacking. Left everything. Crashed with Mike. Months later, therapy helped some, but nights, I hear whispers. Look at sky, see eyes watching. The apartment, rented to a young couple. Hope they don't hear. The universe is vast, uncaring. Sometimes it whispers through walls. Listen and lose yourself. Story 2: The Glow in the Dark. My name's Jamie Carter, and I swear I'm not crazy, though this story might make you think otherwise. It was the summer of 2020, and I'd just moved into a cheap apartment in Detroit. I was 24, fresh out of a dead-end retail job, picking up freelance graphic design gigs to pay the bills. Rent in the city was brutal, but I found a deal on a place in an old neighborhood. One of those forgotten corners where the buildings look like they're sinking into the past. The apartment was in a Gothic-style building from the 1890s, tall, narrow windows with cracked stained glass, stone walls covered in ivy-like veins, and a front door that groaned like it was alive. The ad said historic charm, but it felt more like historic dread. The landlord, Mrs. Kowalski, was a wiry woman in her 70s, with eyes that didn't blink enough. She handed me the keys and muttered, "Keep it clean. Things creep in if you don't." I thought she meant roaches. I wish it was that simple. The place was a one-bedroom on the second floor, unit to C. High ceilings, warped wood floors, and a musty smell like old books left in the rain. The living room had a fireplace that hadn't been used in decades, its mantel carved with flowers that looked like screaming faces if you stared too long. The kitchen was tiny, with a sink that dripped no matter how tight I turned the faucet. The bedroom had a single window facing an alley, where shadows moved even when no one was there. I moved in with a mattress, a folding chair, and a suitcase of clothes. It was home, for better or worse. First night, I was exhausted from hauling boxes up the narrow stairs. I ate instant noodles, set up my laptop, and crashed early. Around 3 a.m., I woke to a faint scratching sound, like tiny feet skittering. Flicked on the lamp. Nothing. The floor was bare, just dust bunnies in the corners. I checked the kitchen, thinking mice. Saw a cockroach scuttle under the fridge, but it wasn't normal. It glowed, a faint blue like a dying star. I blinked. Sure, I was half asleep. Grabbed a shoe, but it was gone. I laughed it off, nerves from the move. Next morning, I cleaned, swept every corner, scrubbed the counters, sprayed bug killer I found under the sink. Felt good, like I was in control. Work kept me busy designing logos for small businesses. I'd sit at my folding table, music playing, trying to ignore the creaks of the old building. But that night, the scratching came again, louder. I followed it to the bathroom. In the dim light, I saw 3 roaches on the sink, glowing blue, brighter than before. Their legs moved slow, like they were watching me. I smashed one with a book. It didn't squish like a bug should it popped, leaving a smear of light that faded like a spark. The others vanished into a crack in the tile. I called Mrs. Kowalski. "You got roaches," I said. She sighed. "Old place. Spray more. They'll go." I bought traps, sticky ones, and set them everywhere. Caught a few, all glowing. I stared at one trapped roach under a glass. Its body pulsed, and I swear it whispered a tiny hiss, like "look up." My skin crawled. I flushed it down the toilet. Days turned into a routine. Work, eat, sleep, check traps. More roaches every night, always glowing. They didn't eat the bait or the crumbs I left to test them. Instead, they crawled in patterns. One night, I found them on my bedroom wall, lined up like the Big Dipper. I took a picture, but it didn't capture the glow. Showed it to my friend Tara, who lived across town. "Weird," she texted. "Get an exterminator." I called one. Guy named Dave showed up, big with a beard, carrying a tank of chemicals. He sprayed every inch, coughing from the fumes. "Never seen glowing roaches," he said. "You sure you're not seeing things?" I showed him a trap with 5 of them, their light dimming as they died. He shook his head. "Mutants, maybe. I'll report it." He left, promising they'd be gone. They weren't. If anything, there were more. I stopped sleeping well. kept a flashlight by my bed, checking corners. Every hour, the roaches started forming new shapes, circles, spirals, things that looked like star maps from sci-fi movies. I'd wake to find them on my ceiling, glowing brighter, like they were charging up. The whispers grew too, not loud, but clear enough to make out words. We see, we know. I told myself it was stress, bad sleep, maybe mold in the walls. I started researching. Online forums about pests led nowhere. Nobody had glowing roaches. But I found a thread on an old Detroit history site. My building, called the Starlight Arms back then, was built on a field where a meteor fell in 1887. Locals said it wasn't just a rock, something alive was inside, something that made people sick, made them see things. A preacher called it a gift from the heavens, but he went mad and burned his church down. The building went up a year later, like they wanted to bury the site. I dug deeper at the library, flipping through dusty records, found a journal from a tenant in 1901, a woman named Clara Voss. She wrote about bugs of light that came from the walls, forming signs of the great beyond. She said they were messengers for something older than Earth, something that lived in the dark between stars. Her last entry was scribbled, "They're digging, it's waking." She disappeared after that back home. I noticed the roaches avoided water. I poured buckets around my bed, thinking it'd keep them away. Didn't work. One night, I woke to them crawling on my arm. I screamed, swatted them off. Their bites left tiny marks, glowing faintly under my skin. I scrubbed till I bled, but the glow stayed. That's when I saw things, flashes of stars. Not ours, but wrong ones, spinning in a void that felt alive. I heard a voice, deep like the ocean, saying, "We come." I called Tara. She came over, skeptical, but worried. We sat in the living room, lights on, traps everywhere. Midnight hit. The floor vibrated, a low hum like a machine starting. Roaches poured from cracks, hundreds, glowing so bright the room looked blue. They formed a spiral on the floor, spinning, faster. Tara grabbed my arm. "What is that?" The center of the spiral sank, wood, cracking like bones. A hole opened, black as night, and something moved inside tentacles' eyes, a mass that didn't belong. We ran. Stairs shook as we stumbled down. Outside, the air was cold, streetlights buzzing. I looked back. The building's windows glowed blue, like it was alive. Tara drove me to her place. I didn't go back. Lost my deposit, my stuff, everything. Mrs. Kowalski wouldn't answer calls. Months later, I read the building was condemned. Workers found tunnels under it, lined with glowing shells. They sealed it, but I still see the glow in my veins sometimes. At night, I dream of a thing under the earth, waiting, whispering through bugs that aren't bugs. The stars aren't just lights, they're watching. Story 3 Fingers from the Drain. My name's Casey Miller, and I'm telling you this because I need someone to believe me. It was the winter of 2021, and I'd just moved into a crumbling apartment in Cleveland. I was 22, working night shifts at a gas station to save up for trade school. Rent was a problem. Everything decent cost too much. So I settled for a cheap one-bedroom in a Gothic building from the 1870s. The place was all sharp angles and shadows, with stone walls that looked wet even when dry, and windows so tall and narrow they felt like eyes watching me. The street outside was lined with bare trees, their branches scratching the sky like claws. The building, called Raven's Nest, had a reputation. Folks said it was cursed, but I didn't believe in that stuff. Not then. The landlord, Mr. Grayson, was a thin man with a voice like gravel. He handed me the keys to Unit 4A, muttering, "Don't clog the drains. They're old." I nodded, just happy to have a place. The apartment was on the 4th floor, no elevator, just a spiral staircase that creaked like it was complaining. The air inside smelled of damp earth and something sour like milk gone bad. The living room had a cracked chandelier that flickered even when off, and the kitchen was a tight corner with a rusty sink. The bedroom had a single window facing a brick wall, so close I could touch it. I moved in with a futon, a lamp, and a bag of clothes. It wasn't much, but it was mine. First night, I was beat from moving. I ate a burger from a nearby diner and fell asleep on the futon, still in my jacket. Around 4 a.m., I woke to a gurgling sound, like water stuck in a pipe. It came from the bathroom. I stumbled in, half asleep, and flicked on the light. The sink was empty, but the drain bubbled, spitting up black gunk that smelled like rot. I grabbed a plunger, thinking it was a clog. The gunk sank back down, but something moved in the drain, teeny like fingers wiggling. I blinked, sure it was a trick of the light, shook my head, and went back to bed. Next morning, I cleaned the place top to bottom, mopped the wood floors, which were warped and stained like something had spilled long ago. Scrubbed the sink with bleach, but the drain still looked wrong, too dark, like it went deeper than it should. Work was long that day, pumping gas and dealing with rude customers. When I got home, I noticed ants, small, black ones, but their legs were too long, like spider legs. They crawled out of the bathroom drain, slow and deliberate, heading toward the kitchen. I stomped them, but they didn't crunch, they popped, leaving tiny specks of light that faded fast. Weird, but I figured it was some city bug I didn't know. I bought traps and spray, set them around the drains, caught dozens by morning, all with those strange legs and glowing specks when they died. The gurgling came every night now, louder, like something big was shifting in the pipes. One night, I leaned close to the drain and heard a whisper, not words, but a low hum that made my teeth ache. I poured boiling water down, hoping to kill whatever was there. It didn't help. The ants kept coming, more each day, forming lines that looked like letters or symbols I couldn't read. I told my coworker Luis about it. He laughed. City pests, man, get a cat. But he came over one evening with beers, curious. We sat in the living room, the chandelier flickering like it was alive. Around midnight, the gurgling started. Luis froze. That's not pipes. We checked the bathroom. Ants poured out, hundreds, moving in a spiral on the floor. Their bodies glowed faintly, like stars in a night sky. Luis grabbed a broom, swept them into a pile. They hissed, a sound like static, and scattered back to the drain. I'm out, Luis said, leaving fast. I started digging into the building's history. At the library, I found old newspapers on microfilm. Raven's Nest was built in 1873, on land where a cult used to meet. They called themselves the Order of the Black Star, obsessed with beings beyond the veil. They believed bugs, roaches, spiders were messengers for gods in the cosmos, things so big they could swallow planets. In 1872, they did a ritual, trying to summon one. Something went wrong. The leader, a man named Amos Black, vanished, along with half the group. The rest were found dead, covered in bites that glowed. The city buried the site, built the apartments to cover it up. Back home, things got worse. The ants didn't just crawl, they built things. I'd find them in the morning, arranged in patterns like runes, sharp angles that hurt to look at. One night, I woke to a sting on my hand. An ant bit me, and my vision blurred. I saw Flashiza city of black stone, under a sky with no stars, towers pulsing like hearts, and eyes watching from the dark. The bite left a glowing mark, a tiny speck. That burned. More bites came, on my arms, legs, neck. Each one brought visions, cosmic horrors, vast and hungry. Whispering my name, I tried sealing the drains with tape, then cement. Didn't work. The ants chewed through, stronger than they should be. The gurgling turned into a pulse, like a heartbeat, in the walls. I heard scratching, too, from inside the plaster, like something was digging. One day, I found a crack in the bedroom wall, big enough to stick my hand in. Ants poured out, carrying bits of dirt that glowed blue. I shone a flashlight inside and saw a tunnel lined with tiny shells that shimmered like galaxies. I called Mr. Grayson. He came up, looked at the crack, and went pale. "Leave it alone," he said. "Some things are better buried." I pushed him. "What's down there?" he whispered. "Black's ritual didn't fail. It brought something. It's still here, under us." He showed me a bite mark on his wrist, old and scarred, glowing faintly. They marked me too. Sleep stopped coming. I'd lie awake, listening to the pulse, watching ants form their runes. My dreams were nightmares, floating in a void, surrounded by things with too many legs and eyes like black holes. They spoke in my head. "Feed us. Free us." The bites on my skin spread, glowing lines like veins under my skin. I felt knowledge I didn't want, secrets of stars that weren't ours, of a queen waiting below, ready to rise. I invited Luis back, desperate. He brought a priest, Father Daniel, who smelled of incense and fear. We stood in the bathroom, candles lit, as he prayed. The ants swarmed, ignoring his words. The floor shook, cracks splitting the tiles. A hand reached up, not human, but insect-like, long and bony, with too many joints. It grabbed my ankle, cold as ice. I screamed, kicked free. Father Daniel dropped his cross, shouting, "This is no demon." We ran, but the ants followed, a wave of glowing bodies. Outside, we gasped in the cold. The building hummed, windows glowing blue. Luis drove us to his place. I never went back. News said the city condemned Raven's Nest after structural issues. Workers found tunnels below, filled with glowing shells and bones. Some human. They sealed it with concrete, but I hear the pulse in my head sometimes. The bites still glow, and at night, I see the queen huge, her body a map of stars, waiting to crawl free. The cosmos isn't empty. It's alive, and it sends its scouts through the drains. Don't listen when they call. Story for the meat that moved. My name's Riley Parker, and I'm still trying to make sense of what happened to me. It was late fall of 2022, and I'd just moved to Pittsburgh for a job as a line cook at a diner. I was 26, single, and broke, so I took the cheapest apartment I could find, a one-bedroom in an old Gothic building called the Iron Hollow. The place was from the 1860s, all dark stone and pointed windows that looked like they belonged in a ghost story. Ivy clung to the walls, and the air smelled like wet earth and secrets. The street was quiet, with streetlights that flickered like they were dying. I didn't care. It was a roof over my head. The landlord, Mr. Voss, was a short guy with a limp, and eyes that never met mine. He handed me the keys to Unit 5B, saying, "Don't touch the attic. It's locked for a reason." I shrugged, figuring he meant asbestos or something. The apartment was on the 5th floor, up a staircase that groaned with every step. Inside, it was cold, with high ceilings and wood floors scratched deep, like something had been dragged across them. The living room had a fireplace, its stones stained black. The kitchen was small, with a fridge that hummed too loud and a sink that dripped rusty water. The bedroom faced an alley where shadows danced at night. I moved in with a mattress, a folding table, and a duffel bag of clothes. It felt like home, barely. First night I was wiped from unpacking. I grabbed a pizza slice from work and crashed. Around 2 a.m., I woke to a smell rotten, like meat left out too long. It came from the kitchen. I checked the fridge. Empty, except for a pack of hot dogs I'd bought. But the smell was stronger, sour, and thick, like death. I opened the freezer. Inside was a chunk of meat, wrapped in plastic, about the size of a football. I hadn't put it there. It was gray, slimy, with veins that looked wrong to blue, pulsing faintly. I gagged, shut the door, and went back to bed, figuring I'd deal with it tomorrow. Morning came, gray and cold. I called Mr. Voss about the meat. Probably left by the last tenant, he said. Toss it. I tried, but the smell was so bad. I couldn't get close without dry heaving. I left it, planning to buy gloves. Work was busy flipping burgers, dodging grease burns. I told my coworker Maria about the meat. She laughed. Haunted fridge, huh? Burn some sage. I chuckled, but it stuck with me. That night, the smell was worse. I checked the freezer again. The meat had shifted to the other side, plastic torn like something clawed it. I slammed the door, heart pounding. The fridge hummed louder. Like a growl, I unplugged it, thinking it was broken. The hum stopped, but the smell didn't. I slept with the bedroom door locked. Next day, I bought gloves and a trash bag. Opened the freezer. The meat was unwrapped now, sitting in the middle, wet and glistening. It twitched, just a little, like a muscle flexing. I dropped the gloves and ran out. At work, I was jumpy, spilling coffee, burning toast. Maria noticed. You okay? I told her about the meat moving. She stopped laughing. Get out of that place, Riley. I didn't rent was paid, and I had nowhere else. But I started researching. At the library, I found old records about the Iron Hollow. Built in 1864, it was home to a doctor named Silas Marrow. He wasn't a regular doctor, he studied the stars, built a telescope in the attic, and wrote about life beyond the veil. In 1866, he vanished, leaving behind notes about flesh touched by the cosmos. The next tenant, a woman, went missing too. Her diary mentioned meat that spoke in her fridge. The building was sealed for years after, reopened only when the city needed cheap housing. Back home, the fridge was plugged in again. I hadn't touched it. The meat was bigger now, filling half the freezer, its veins glowing blue like neon. I heard a sound low, like a moan. Not from the fridge, but inside my head. It said, "Feed me." I slammed the freezer shut, taped it closed, and pushed the table against it. Nights got bad. The smell seeped everywhere, even with the tape. I'd wake to scratching from the kitchen, like nails on metal. One night, I saw the fridge door ajar, tape torn. The meat was on the counter, pulsing, leaving a trail of slime. I grabbed a knife, ready to stab it, but it slid back into the freezer like it knew. My hands shook so bad I dropped the knife. I called Maria. She came over with her cousin, Tony, a big guy who didn't scare easy. We stood in the kitchen, staring at the fridge. Tony yanked it open. The meat was huge now, spilling out, veins throbbing like a heartbeat. It moved fast, wrapping around Tony's arm. He screamed, pulling free. His skin burned where it touched. The meat formed a shape of face, with eyes like black holes, and a mouth that whispered, "We are many." Maria grabbed me, and we ran, Tony limping behind. Outside, the air was sharp. The building's windows glowed blue, like the meat's veins. We didn't go back. I crashed with Maria, but the smell followed, faint in my clothes, my hair. I saw a doctor. My skin had glowing marks, where I'd brushed the meat, like tiny stars under my flesh. Dreams came, showing me a place beyond Earth, planets of flesh, skies of blood, voices chanting about a hunger older than time. The city tore down the Iron Hollow months later. Workers found a telescope in the attic, its lens cracked, pointing at stars that didn't match any charts. Under the building, they found bones, some human, some not, wrapped in flesh that moved. They burned it, but I still see the glow in my skin. At night, I hear the meat's voice, calling from the stars. It's still hungry. Story 5, Webs of Fate. My name's Sam Torres, and I'm writing this down because I can't keep it in my head anymore. It was the spring of 2023, and I'd just moved to Baltimore for a job as a delivery driver. I was 23, barely making ends meet. So I took the cheapest apartment I could find, a one-bedroom in a Gothic building called the Shadow Loft. Built in 1850, it was all dark stone and pointed windows, like a castle forgotten by time. Ivy crawled up the walls, and the air smelled of damp wood and something sharp, like metal. The street was narrow, with old lamps that buzzed and flickered. Locals whispered the place was bad luck, but I didn't listen. I needed a home. The landlord, Ms. Crane, was a tall woman with gray hair, tied tight, and eyes like she'd seen too much. She gave me the keys to Unit 6C, saying, "Don't disturb the corners. Things live there." I thought she meant dust or bugs, so I nodded and climbed the creaky stairs to the 6th floor. The apartment was cold, with high ceilings and floors that groaned under my steps. The living room had a cracked skylight, letting in dim moonlight. The kitchen was tiny, with a stove that hissed when I turned it on. The bedroom had one window, facing a brick wall that blocked the sun. I moved in with a sleeping bag, a lamp, and a backpack of clothes. It was enough. First night, I was beat from hauling boxes. I ate a sandwich from a nearby shop and crashed. Around 3 a.m., I woke to a tickling on my arm. I swatted it, thinking it was a loose thread. Turned on the lamp. A spider, small and black, with legs too long, sat on my wrist. Its eyes too many glowed faintly, like tiny stars. I flicked it off, heart racing. It scuttled into a corner, where a web shimmered, not with light, but with something darker, like shadows trapped in silk. I checked the room. Webs were everywhere, corners, ceiling, even the window frame. They weren't there when I moved in. Morning came, gray and wet. I swept the webs down, their threads sticking to my broom like glue. Work was long, driving packages across town, dodging traffic. I told my coworker, Jamal, about the spiders. He grinned. City bugs, man. Spray M. I bought bug spray, doused every corner. It didn't help. That night, more webs appeared, thicker, with patterns that looked wrong, spirals, sharp angles, like writing I couldn't read. The spiders were back, bigger, their glowing eyes, watching me. I crushed one. It didn't squish, it burst, leaving a speck of light that burned my hand. The webs got worse. They covered the skylight, dimming the room. I'd tear them down, but they'd be back by morning, stronger. One night, I woke to a whisper, soft like wind, but inside my head. See the truth. I followed the sound to the bedroom. The webs there formed a shape, a city, not Earth's, with towers of black stone under a sky with no stars. I blinked, and it was gone, just webs again. My skin crawled. I started researching. At the library, I found old books about the Shadow Loft. It was built on a site where a stargazer, Eliza Thorne, lived in the 1850s. She wasn't just watching stars, she was calling them. Writing about weavers of the void who showed her the future. Her journals described spiders that spun fates, threads linked to things beyond our world. In 1859, she vanished, leaving behind webs that glowed and a note. They show me the end. The building went up soon after, like they wanted to hide her work. Back home, the spiders multiplied. They didn't bite, but their webs trapped me, sticking to my clothes, my hair. I'd wake with threads across my face, and visions would hit. Planets burning, skies splitting, eyes watching from the dark. The webs showed scenes: my truck crashing, Jamal's face pale, my own body broken. I told Jamal. He came over, skeptical but curious. We sat under the skylight, webs glinting above. Midnight hit. The webs pulsed, glowing blue. A spider, big as my hand, dropped onto the table. Its web formed to face mine, screaming. Jamal grabbed a bat, swung. The spider dodged, and the web tightened around his arm. He yelled, pulling free, his skin marked with glowing lines. We tore down the webs, but they grew back faster, covering walls, doors, windows. The whispers grew louder. You cannot escape. I found a trapdoor in the closet, leading to the attic. Against Ms. Crane's warning, I climbed up. The attic was a maze of beams, covered in webs that pulsed like veins. In the center, a telescope, old and rusted, pointed at the sky. Webs around it showed a star field, but the stars moved, forming eyes that stared back. A voice boomed in my head. "We weave your end." I ran, but the webs followed, sticking to my legs. Downstairs, the apartment was a cocoon, threads everywhere. Spiders swarmed, their eyes like galaxies. They spun a web around me, tight, showing my death trapped in a void, torn apart by shadows. I screamed, broke free with a knife, and stumbled out with Jamal. The building hummed, webs glowing through the windows. We didn't go back. I crashed with Jamal, but the visions stayed. My skin glowed where the webs touched, and I saw future cities falling, stars dying. The shadow loft was raised months later. Workers found webs underground, wrapped around bones, and a telescope lens that showed impossible stars. I still feel the threads, hear the whispers. The spiders wove my fate, and I'm running from it. Story 6. The mirrors call my name's Mia Chen, and I'm writing this because the truth is clawing at my mind, and I need someone else to carry it. It was the winter of 2024, and I'd just moved to Seattle for a job as a dishwasher at a seafood joint. I was 22, fresh out of high school with no money, so I grabbed the cheapest apartment. I could find a one-bedroom in a Gothic building called the Starveil Tower. Built in 1863, it was a dark, looming thing of gray stone, with tall, narrow windows like eyes that never blinked. Moss clung to the walls, and the air smelled of rain and something bitter, like burnt metal. The street was quiet, with old lanterns that flickered like they were scared. People whispered the place was bad luck, but I needed a roof, so I signed the lease. The landlord, Mr. Harrow, was a skinny man with a voice like a creaky hinge. He handed me the keys to Unit 1 OG, saying, "Don't stare in the mirror too long. It's old." I thought he was being weird, so I smiled and climbed the groaning stairs to the 10th floor. The apartment was cold, with high ceilings and wood. Floors scratched deep, like something had been dragged across them. The living room had a fireplace, its stones stained black, like they'd seen fire too often. The kitchen was small, with a sink that dripped cloudy water. The bedroom had one window, facing an alley, where shadows twisted, without cause. A big, cracked mirror hung on the bedroom wall, its frame carved with strange shaped stars, maybe, or eyes. I moved in with a mattress, a folding table, and a bag of clothes. It was home, barely. First night, I was beat from hauling boxers. I ate a burger from work and crashed. Around 3 a.m., I woke to a hum, low and steady, like a machine far away. It came from the bedroom. I stumbled in, half asleep, and saw the mirror glowing faintly, a blue light like moonlight, trapped in glass. My reflection looked wrong, eyes too big, mouth moving when mine wasn't. I blinked, and it was normal again. My heart pounded, but I blamed the long day, and went back to sleep. Morning came, wet and gray. I checked the mirror. The glow was gone, but the cracks seemed deeper, like veins spreading. Work was rough scrubbing pots, dodging grease burns. I told my coworker Jaden about the mirror. He laughed. "Spooky vibes, Mia. Clean it or something." I bought glass cleaner, wiped the mirror down. It didn't help. That night, the hum came again, louder, and the mirror glowed brighter. I saw my reflection move, stepping closer when I didn't. It whispered, "Look deeper." My skin crawled, but I couldn't look away. The next day, I noticed more. The fireplace flickered, even with no fire. The walls creaked, like they were breathing. One night, I woke to scratches on my arms, thin lines that glowed blue, like the mirror's light. I checked the bedroom. The mirror's cracks had grown, forming patterned spirals, sharp angles, like a map to nowhere. I covered it with a sheet, but by morning, the sheet was on the floor, torn. I called Mr. Harrow. He came up, saw the mirror, and went pale. "Don't look in it," he said. "It sees you back." I pushed him. "What's that mean?" he muttered. "This place was built on a bad spot. Someone tried to call something, long ago." It's in the glass now. He showed me a scar on his palm, glowing faintly, like my scratches. It marked me too. I started digging into the Starveil Tower's past. At the library, I found old records. In 1865, a woman named Leela Frost lived here. She wasn't just an artist, she painted mirrors, believing they were windows to the beyond. Her journals talked about star eyes watching through glass, showing her things, worlds of black stone, skies with no sun, beings that ate light. In 1867, she vanished, leaving behind a mirror with cracks that glowed and a note. They see me now. The building was sealed for years, reopened only when the city needed cheap housing. The mirror got worse. Its glow filled the bedroom at night, and the hum turned into whispers. Join us. I'd wake to find myself standing in front of it, not remembering how I got there. My reflection didn't match. Its eyes were black, its smile too wide. It moved, reaching out, fingers pressing against the glass. The scratches on my skin spread, glowing brighter, forming lines like constellations. Each night, visions came floating in a void, surrounded by eyes that weren't human, voices chanting about a hunger older than Earth. I told Jaden. He came over with his cousin, Tara, a bartender with no patience for nonsense. We sat in the living room, the chandelier flickering above. Midnight hit. The mirror's glow spilled out, lighting the whole apartment blue. Whispers filled the air. Come through. My reflection stepped out of the mirror. Not me, but something else, tall, thin, with skin like starlight, and eyes like holes. It reached for me, cold fingers brushing my arm. Tara screamed, throwing a lamp. It shattered, and the thing dissolved into light. But the mirror pulsed, cracks splitting wider. Shadows moved inside, like a crowd waiting. We ran, stumbling down the stairs. The building hummed, windows glowing blue. Outside, the air was sharp. I never went back. Crashed with Jaden, but the scratches didn't fade. They glowed, spreading, like veins. A doctor called it an allergy, but pills did nothing. Dreams showed a place beyond the city of mirrors, reflecting endless eyes, a voice saying, "You're ours." The Starveil Tower was torn down in 2025. Workers found a chamber below, filled with cracked mirrors and bones, some human. They burned it all, but I still see the glow, hear the whispers. The stars aren't just lights, they're watching, and they want in. The days dragged on, but the mirror's pull never let up. My job at the seafood joint was a grind, hours of scrubbing pots, the smell of fish clinging to my skin, my hands raw from hot water. Customers noticed I was jumpy, dropping plates, staring at nothing. Jaden started asking questions, but I didn't know how to explain the mirror without sounding crazy. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he'd say, half joking. I wished it was just a ghost. Back at the apartment, I tried to avoid the bedroom, sleeping on the living room floor. But the hum followed, vibrating through the walls, making my teeth ache. The scratches on my arms burned, glowing brighter each night. I'd cover the mirror with blankets, tape, even boards I found in the alley. By morning, they'd be gone, torn, broken, or just vanished. The mirror's cracks kept growing, forming new patterns, circles, lines, shapes that made my head hurt. One night, I saw words in the cracks. "We see you," I screamed, ran to the kitchen, and stayed there till dawn, clutching a knife. I went back to the library, desperate for answers, dug through more records, found Lila Frost's sketches, mirrors with eyes, stars that moved like living things. She wrote about a ritual, using blood and starlight to open a window to the void. She believed the mirrors held pieces of something ancient, something that wanted to cross over. Her last entry was a scrawl. I looked too long. "They're coming." I found a photo of the Starveil Tower from 1868. Its windows glowed blue, just like now. I tried to fight it, poured salt around the mirror, like I'd read in old books. It melted, hissing like acid. I burned candles, hoping the light would Keep it away. The flames bent toward the mirror, like they were being sucked in. One night, I awoke standing in front of it, my hand on the glass. My reflection wasn't MIT, was Lila Frost, her face pale, eyes black, whispering, "You're next." I yanked my hand back, but it left a glowing print on the glass, pulsing like a heartbeat. Jaden and Tara came over more often, worried. We'd sit in the living room, drinking cheap beer, trying to laugh it off. But the air was heavy, the chandelier swinging faster each night. Tara brought sage, lit it, but the smoke curled into the bedroom, like the mirror was hungry. Jaden suggested smashing it. We tried a hammer, a crowbar. The glass didn't break. It bent, like rubber, and the hammer flew from Jaden's hand, cutting his arm. The cut glowed, just like my scratches. The visions got worse. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the void, a black sea of stars. Not ours, with shapes moving between them, too big to understand. They had eyes, thousands, watching me. They whispered secrets. Earth was a speck, humans were food, and the mirrors were their way in. I'd wake sweating, my skin glowing brighter, the scratches forming maps, paths to places I didn't want to go. I stopped going to work, couldn't focus, kept seeing my reflection in spoons, windows, even puddles. They all showed her Leela, or something pretending to be her, smiling, beckoning. I called Mr. Harrow again. He didn't come, just said over the phone, "Get out, it wants you." I asked about the ritual. He hung up, but not before I heard him whisper, "It's awake." One night, I couldn't take it. I stood in front of the mirror, yelling, "What do you want?" The glass pulsed, and the room went dark. The hum was deafening, shaking the walls. My reflection stepped out, not Lila now, but something else. Tall, thin, its skin shimmering like a night sky, its eyes black holes that pulled at my soul. It reached for me, fingers long and cold, brushing my face. My skin burned, glowing marks spreading. The mirror cracked wide, showing a tunnel of light, with shadows moving inside people, or things that used to be. Their mouths open in silent screams. Tara burst in. She'd been waiting outside, worried. She threw a chair at the thing. It dissolved into sparks, but the mirror kept glowing, the tunnel wider. Jaden grabbed me, and we ran, the shadows chasing, their whispers like knives in my head. "You can't leave." The stairs shook. The chandelier crashed behind us. Outside, the nightshade's windows blazed blue, like a lighthouse for something awful. I found an old book online, Rites of the Void, shipped overnight. It was falling apart, pages yellow, words cramped, like secrets. It described rituals to close portals, using blood and light. I tried one, cutting my palm, letting blood drip on the mirror. The glass hissed, the glow dimmed, but only for a moment. The cracks reformed, showing a city of mirrors, each one holding a trapped soul. My reflection stepped closer, its hand breaking through the glass, grabbing my wrist. I screamed, pulled free, but the glowing marks spread faster, burning like fire. The final night was the worst. Jaden and Tara were there, armed with tools and candles. The mirror's glow filled the apartment, the hum shaking the walls. My reflection now, the watcher stepped out fully, its body a shimmer of stars, its eyes pulling at my mind. It spoke, not with a voice but in my head, "You're the key." Shadows poured from the mirror, hands grabbing, faces forming Leela, others, all lost. Tara threw a lamp, Jaden swung a crowbar, but the shadows didn't stop. I grabbed a flashlight, shone it at the mirror. The light burned, the watcher screamed, and the shadows dissolved. The mirror cracked fully, shattering into dust, but the tunnel's light stayed. Fading slowly, we ran, the building shaking behind us. Outside, the Starveil Tower glowed like a dying star. I never went back, crashed with Jaden and Tara, but the marks kept glowing, spreading like veins. Doctors ran test trashes, they said, but nothing worked. Dreams came every night. The city of mirrors, the watchers waiting, their eyes on me. The tower was raised in May 2025. Workers found a chamber below, filled with mirror shards and bones, some human, all glowing. They burned it, sealed the site, but I see the glow in my skin, feel the pull in my dreams. The stars aren't safe there, watching, and they're close. The weeks after the first night were a slow descent into fear. My job at the seafood joint became unbearable. My hands trembled, dropping knives, splashing water that glowed faintly in my eyes. Customers stared, whispering about the marks on my arms. "You sick?" a regular asked. I lied, said it was a tattoo, but my voice shook. Jaden started bringing me lunch, checking my eyes for that faraway look. Tara researched mirrors, found old myths about scrying glasses that trapped souls. "It's just stories," she said, but her voice wasn't sure. The apartment turned against me. The fireplace's shadows danced, forming faces that vanished when I looked. The walls pulsed like a heartbeat under the plaster. The sink's drips left glowing trails, forming shapes like the mirror's cracks. I stopped sleeping in the bedroom, dragged my mattress to the living room, but the hum followed, vibrating through the floor, pulling me back. I'd wake standing in front of the mirror, my reflection's eyes black, its hand reaching out. I tried everything. Nailed boards over the mirror, they were gone by morning, splintered like kindling. Poured salt, burned incense, even prayed, though I'd never been religious. The mirror drank it all, its glow stronger, its whispers louder. "You're ours." The scratches on my skin burned, glowing brighter, forming patterns I couldn't read, but felt paths to a place I didn't want to see. Jaden and Tara became my lifeline. They'd stay over, playing music to drown the hum, keeping lights on, to push back the shadows. Jaden found an old priest online, Father Amos, who knew about occult stuff. He came, sprinkled holy water, chanted prayers. The mirror laughed literally, a sound like breaking glass. Father Amos left, saying, "This is no demon, it's older." Tara found a forum where people shared mirror stories none matched mine, but one mentioned a star window, a gate to something beyond. I kept digging at the library, found a newspaper from 1868, reporting strange lights in the Starveil Tower's windows. Tenants vanished, all with glowing marks. A sketch showed a mirror, its frame like mine, cracks forming a face. I found Leela's last letter, hidden in an archive. The watchers see through glass. They want a door. I'm their way in. My hands shook as I read it. The mirror wasn't just haunted, it was alive. The visions grew worse. Each scratch brought flashes, a void of spinning stars, cities of glass, creatures with too many eyes. They whispered knowledge Earth was nothing. Humans were prey, and the mirrors were their eyes. I stopped looking at anything shiny, covered my phone screen, avoided windows, but the glow was in me now, spreading through my veins. The last night, I was ready to run. Jaden and Tara packed my stuff, but I had to try one more thing. I found a ritual in the old booklight and blood to close the gate. I cut my hand, smeared blood on the mirror, and shone every light I had, flashlights, lamps, even my phone. The glass screamed, cracks exploding outward. The watcher came through, its body a storm of light, its voice shaking my bones. "You can't stop us." Tara threw a chair, Jaden swung a pipe. I kept the light on it, burning my hand. The mirror shattered, the tunnel collapsing, shadows screaming as they faded. We ran, the building trembling. Outside, the Starveil Tower glowed like a dying sun. I crashed with Jaden and Tara, but the marks stayed, glowing brighter. Doctors ran scans. Nothing showed, but the glow spread. Dreams showed the void, the watchers waiting, their voices clear. "We're still here. The tower's gone now, burned and sealed. But every reflection shows her Lila, or the thing wearing her face." The stars aren't just lights, they're doors, and they're opening. Story 7, The Black Growth. My name's Emma Hayes, and I'm telling you this because I need someone to know what happened before it swallows me whole. It was the winter of 2024, and I'd just moved to Boston for a job as a barista at a coffee shop. I was 24, fresh out of community college with no savings. So I took the cheapest apartment I could find, a one-bedroom, in a Gothic building called the Ebenspear, built in 1867. It was a crumbling giant of black stone, with pointed windows, like narrowed eyes and gargoyles that seemed to sneer from the roof. The street was quiet, lined with bare trees that scratched the sky. Locals whispered it was cursed, but I brushed it off. I needed a place to sleep. The landlord, Mr. Lyle, was an old man with a cough that rattled like bones. He handed me the keys to Unit 8E, saying, "Watch the walls. They get damp." I nodded, figuring he meant leaks, and trudged up the creaky stairs to the 8th floor. The apartment was cold, with high ceilings and wood floors sticky with grime. The living room had a fireplace, its stones stained like they'd bled. The kitchen was small, with a sink that dripped black water. The bedroom faced an alley, where shadows moved without reason. I moved in with a mattress, a folding chair, and a suitcase of clothes. It was mine, for better or worse. First night, I was wiped for moving. I ate a slice of pizza from a nearby shop and crashed. Around 3 a.m., I woke to a smell rotten, like wet earth and spoiled fruit. It came from the bathroom. I flicked on the light. The walls were spotted with black mold, patches the size of coins, glistening like oil. I scrubbed them with bleach, but the smell lingered, sharp and alive. I went back to bed, blaming old pipes. Morning came, cold and gray. I checked the bathroom. The mold was back, bigger, spreading like veins across the tiles. Work was long. Coffee, dodging rude customers. I told my coworker, Nate, about the mold. He shrugged. "Old buildings, man. Get a dehumidifier." I bought one, set it up, and sprayed more bleach. It didn't help. The mold grew faster, creeping into the kitchen, then the living room. It wasn't normal, its edges moved, like it was breathing, and it glowed faintly, a sickly green that pulsed at night. One evening I touched a patch by accident. My fingers burned, and my head spun with images, a sky of swirling black. Stars that weren't stars, but eyes, and a voice whispering, "We grow." I yanked my hand back, heart pounding. The mold had left a mark on my skin, a glowing spot that didn't fade. That night, I woke to scratching in the walls, like roots digging through dirt. I shone a flashlight on the ceiling. The mold had formed, patterned spirals, sharp lines. Like writing from a nightmare, I called Mr. Lyle. He came up, saw the mold, and went white. "Don't touch it," he said. "It's not from here." I pressed him. "What's that mean?" He muttered. "This place was built on a bad spot. Something fell from the sky, long ago. It's in the walls now." He showed me a scar on his arm, glowing faintly, like my mark. It touched me too. I started researching. At the library, I found old records about the Ebenspear. In 1866, a meteor crashed where the building now stood. A scientist, Dr. Amos Vale, studied it, claiming it carried spores from beyond Earth. He wrote about a living growth that fed on minds, showing visions of cosmic horrors, things that lived in the dark between stars, hungry for worlds. In 1868, he vanished, leaving behind mold-covered notes and a warning, "It wakes." The building was built to bury the site, but tenants kept disappearing, all with glowing marks. The mold spread faster. It coated the windows, dimming the light. I'd scrub it off, but it grew back by morning, thicker, pulsing louder. The whispers came every night, "Join us." My dreams were nightmares floating in a void, surrounded by tendrils of black mold that wrapped around planets, choking them. The marks on my skin spread, glowing veins that burned when I looked at the sky. I told Nate. He came over with his sister Lena, a nurse who didn't scare easy. We sat in the living room, the air thick with the mold smell. Midnight hit. The walls hummed like a heartbeat. Mold poured from cracks, forming shape-size, mouths, hands reaching out. Lena screamed as a tendril touched her, leaving a glowing mark. Nate swung a chair, but the mold swallowed it, growing bigger. A voice boomed in my head. "We are the seed." The floor cracked, revealing a mass of mold below, pulsing like a heart, with eyes that stared. We ran, stumbling down the stairs. The building shook, windows glowing green. Outside, the air was sharp. I never went back. Crashed with Nate, but the marks didn't fade. A doctor said it was a rash, but creams didn't help. Dreams showed a thing under the earth, its tendrils reaching through stars. The Ebon Spire was demolished in 2025. Workers found a cavern below, filled with glowing mold and bones. Some human. They burned it, but I still feel the marks, hear the whispers. The stars aren't empty, they're alive, and they're growing. Story 8. The Door to Nowhere. My name's Liam Foster, and I'm writing this because I can't carry it alone anymore. It was the summer of 2024, and I'd just moved to New Orleans for a job as a bike courier. I was 27, broke from chasing gigs, and needed a cheap place to crash. I found an ad for a one-bedroom in a Gothic building called the Nightshade. Built in 1855, it was a crumbling relic of dark stone, with pointed windows, like daggers and gargoyles, that seemed to whisper in the wind. The street was narrow, lined with mossy oaks that blocked the sun. Locals avoided the place, saying it. 8 people. I laughed it off. Rent was dirt cheap, and I was desperate. The landlord, Ms. Vey, was a frail woman with eyes like fogged glass. She handed me the keys to Unit 9F, muttering, "Don't open the closet. It's sealed for a reason." I nodded, thinking she meant rats or mold, and climbed the creaky stairs to the 9th floor. The apartment was cold, with high ceilings and wood floors gouged like something had clawed them. The living room had a chandelier that flickered without power. The kitchen was tiny, with a sink that dripped black water. The bedroom faced a courtyard where shadows twisted like they were alive. I moved in with a sleeping bag, a lamp, and a backpack of clothes. It was enough. First night, I was beat. From moving, I ate a po' boy from a nearby shop and crashed. Around 2 a.m., I woke to a thump, like a door slamming. It came from the bedroom closet. I checked it locked tight. No handle, just a rusted keyhole. The thumping stopped, but I heard a sound like wind, not outside, but inside the closet, howling. Low. I pressed my ear to the door. A whisper came through. "Open." My heart raced. I jammed a chair against the door and went back to bed, blaming the old building's noises. Morning came, hot and sticky. I checked the closet. The chair was on its side, the door still locked, but warm, like it had been touched. Work was rough pedaling through humid streets, dodging cars. I told my coworker, Zoe, about the closet. She smirked. "Haunted, huh? Burn some incense." I bought some, lit it, but the smoke curled toward the closet like it was being sucked in. That night, the thumping came again, louder, with whispers. "See us." I shone a flashlight under the door. Shadows moved, not like light tricks, but like things with legs and eyes. I started noticing more. The chandelier didn't just flicker, it swung, like something pushed it. The walls creaked, not settling, but like they breathed. One night I woke to scratches on the closet door, fresh and deep, from the inside. I called Ms. Vey. She came, up, saw the marks, and went pale. "Leave it alone," she said. "Some doors don't lead where you think." I pushed her. "What's in there?" She whispered. "This place was built on a bad spot. They tried to call something, years ago. It's still there." She showed me a scar on her hand, glowing faintly, like starlight. It touched me once. I dug into the Nightshade's history. At the library, I found old journals. In 1857, A cult called the Voidkin lived here. They believed in doors to the stars, portals to beings beyond earth, things so vast they could swallow worlds. Their leader, Ezra Kane, held a ritual in the building, using a closet as a gate. It went wrong. Half the cult vanished. The rest were found dead, eyes gone, bodies marked with glowing scars. Kane's journal said the closet led to a nowhere, where the lost waited. The building was sealed until the city needed cheap housing. The thumping got worse. Every night, the closet door shook, whispers growing clearer. Join the lost. I taped it shut, nailed boards across it. Didn't help. The boards splintered by morning, tape torn like paper. I stopped sleeping, kept every light on. One night, I saw light under the door, not normal, but blue, like stars, spinning. I heard voices, not one, but many, chanting my name. My skin prickled, and I felt a pull, like the closet wanted me. I told Zoe. She came over with her friend Marcus, a big guy who fixed bikes. We sat in the living room, the chandelier swinging above. Midnight hit. The closet door rattled, then burst open. A wind howled out, cold and sharp, smelling of metal and ash. Shadows spilled from the closet, not dark but alive, with eyes like black holes. They formed shapes, people twisted, their mouths moving. Come with us. Marcus swung, a wrench, but it passed through them. Zoe grabbed my arm, and we ran, the shadows chasing, their touch burning my skin with glowing marks. Outside, the air was thick. The nightshade's windows glowed blue, like a beacon. I never went back, crashed with Zoe, but the marks didn't fade. They glowed brighter, forming patterns like star maps. A doctor called it a rash, but medicine did nothing. Dreams came floating in a void, surrounded by lost souls, their eyes begging, a vast thing watching from beyond. The nightshade was torn down in 2025. Workers found a tunnel behind the closet, leading to a chamber of bones and glowing stones. They sealed it, but I hear the whispers still. The stars aren't just light, they're doors, and something's knocking.